tonight it is about to, what we say, go down. As you know, my name is Sha'Meca Oliver. I am your host for tonight on the Building the Best You show. And you know, this show is about bringing women on so that they can share their journey of trial and triumph to help the woman go to the next level in her life so that she can be healed and successful. Are you guys ready to be healed? Are you ready to be successful? Are you ready to go to the next level in your life where you are in the right place at the right time, because it is happening now? It's Tokeitha K. Come on in, girl. Come on in.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Welcome. Hello.
Look at her. That song, I don't look like what I've been through.
No.
I don't look like what, you see that smile?
Yeah.
And sometimes we look at people and we wonder, how is she still smiling?
Yeah.
How is she still holding her head up? Well, she's going to tell you how. She's going to tell you the why. And she's going to let you know how you can do that also. So we're going to talk real talk on tonight.
Awesome. Let's get it.
We're going to talk girl talk on tonight.
Awesome.
You understand? Because people want to hear the truth, right? Y'all want to hear
Yes.
the truth, right? You know, we see the successful woman a lot of times, Tokeitha. We see her with her car, her man, her kids, her house. I mean, her everything, her jewelry. And Miss Tokeitha is looking fly, by the way.
Thank
okay.
You too.
Thank you, girl. Come on.
Thank you.
Come on. That's a sisterhood.
No,
You
really.
gotta compliment. You gotta
You
compliment
do.
your sister. Okay.
You have to.
Right? It's a bond that can't be broken.
Oh, gosh.
A real sisterhood is a bond that can't be broken.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes a real woman to tell another woman so she knows that she's
You're
a real
gorgeous.
woman.
You're beautiful.
You're awesome and you're amazing.
Yes.
We need to hear that.
Yes.
Because
yes.
a lot of times we suffer in silence just because of that. We don't have anyone around us that's encouraging us to go to the next level, to believe in ourselves.
Or just greeting your fellow sister. Hey, gorgeous.
Hey,
you don't even
girl.
have to say your name. Hey,
Girl,
gorgeous.
I love that dress. You gotta.
Yes.
I'm about being intentional, okay?
I
So
love
when
it.
I see
love it.
someone, I'm like, I don't care what. Girl, I love. Where you get that hair? Girl, I love your chocolate skin. Because we can deal with so many things that lowers our self-esteem, you know, that doesn't allow us to walk in Holy Ghost boldness, you know, trying to live up to a certain, you know, standard that people have set. And that's not even how we're supposed to be living.
Right.
Anyway.
You're right.
We're going to get
that
into
that was the whole sermon right there, right? We all that was the entire show right there. That whole moment, just sitting there thinking about all the different golden nuggets she just said. You know, from greeting someone to just being who you are, loving yourself, knowing your worth, loving the skin that you're in. That's something that we do not often do.
Right.
You know, but thank goodness that we're embracing the skin that we're in.
Yes, embracing the skin.
Yeah.
Come on now. Embracing the skin that you're in.
Yeah, embrace that moment.
Embrace that moment. So look, this is what I want to do, because I want to bring everyone into this intimate setting that we have right here. And I want you to think about every flaw, everything that has ever hurt you, anyone who has mistreated you, abused you, talked about you, downed you, degraded you, anything that has ever made, even if you were the woman who walked in that room and there were 10 women in the room, and for some reason, it didn't even have to be them, but it's just like, man, I wish I got what she got. And that little seed sowed something in you that rooted, and you need to get that pulled out from the root.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? Because I believe that those things ends up growing to other areas in our lives.
That's right.
And we didn't even pay attention to it. We didn't even know how to pay attention to it because nobody taught us. So on today, we're going to get some tips, some tools, some nuggets, so that you can take with you and apply it for the rest of your life. You understand me?
That's right.
That's right. So Tokeitha, tell us a little bit about you. Who is Tokeitha? Who was Tokeitha? You know.
Tokeitha's still here, just still standing. That's the first thing I must say. I'm Tokeitha K Wilson. I was born and raised in Washington, D.C. I graduated from Bennett College, and it was at that school where I began to embrace my womanhood and understand what it is to love yourself, be amongst women just like you, thrive in an environment that is loving and nurturing, sisterhood at its finest.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
just the simple things about womanhood, you know, how to carry yourself, what to do, what not to do. And there's still things that we still learn as women as we get older. You know,
Yes.
there's a long list of things that we shouldn't do, right?
Yes. Yes.
But we often don't share some of the basic things as to what we should do. I am a mother, a single mother. I'm a 4th generation entrepreneur. My great-great-grandfather had his own business, but I'm the first woman in my family to do it. 2-time best-selling author of the books Too Precious to Be and Fighting Jezebel, as you can see here.
Wait a minute. We're just not going to just look over that, okay? Because it's some women out there that want to write a book, okay, who wants to get to that level. So we're gonna hold these books up so that you guys can actually see them. Huh? Tokeitha, hold this one up.
Oh, sure.
2 books.
Yeah, so this is my first book. This is my first baby, as we would say. This book is more so of my spiritual journey that I share. Sometimes when I'm writing this material, I'm looking at myself on paper, and it's hard.
Yes.
It was hard for me to write this first book. When I first wrote the book, I had 3 chapters, and I told my best friend, hey, I'm done with my book. And she's saying, you're leaving out all of the good stuff. You're leaving out the parts where people really need to see who you are and what you went through. You know, there are some really graphic moments in here that I share about my story that people never knew about me. Not even my closest friends, believe it or not. So it was therapeutic for me to even write it out, to start my healing process in the form of a book. And I didn't do it for, you know, publicity or notoriety. I was just doing it because God gave it to me from that perspective.
Right.
You know, you're going to write this book. We were coming off of a time in my life where my son father was going back to jail yet again. You know, and I had to figure out a way, how can I help this family make money and build something and take care of my child? I just got tired of struggling from paycheck to paycheck. And, you know, I just prayed to God, and then God gave me everything. The right mentor was in place for me to help me.
Yes.
And I was able to listen to the women that were speaking into my life at the time. That was the most important thing. Because I still am grateful to so many women. One in particular was Margaret Quick. She said to me, Tokeitha, you're my speaker. You're going to do this. You're going to do that. And I sat there and I listened to her and I said, yes, ma'am, I'm going to do it. And I did it. And she still says to me to this day, I am so glad I shined my light on you.
Yeah.
You know, and you listen. And she said, because I can look at you every day, and at every moment I see you, I'm so proud of you. You know, there were so many women. It's not just Miss Quick, but there were so many women who helped me along the way. And I pay homage to them in the books as well. Yes. Because I never forget where I come from.
It does. It definitely takes another woman to help build another woman.
Yes.
To help her through, you know, from her journey to share it and to help build you. And that's why we're sitting here today. You know, sharing that journey of trials and triumphs. And I say trials because we go through we go through a lot of things. It's not one thing, you know. And then the triumphs, because you still have victories.
Yes.
You see what I'm saying? You still have things that you go through, and there's a success, you know, in that, and then next thing you know, it's like it's a roller coaster. You're going up, you're going down, and you feel like I thought I was winning, but you are winning.
Yeah.
You are winning. These things what you have been through, they're molding you. They're helping you. They're growing you. They're strengthening you. They're a part of who God predestined for you to be. You understand me? Yeah. I want to tell somebody that on today. Everything that you have been going through is preparing you for your ladder.
That's it.
And the Bible says your ladder shall be greater.
Come on, greater.
So greater. It's greater. Right.
Like I get those signs from God. Okay.
But I do believe there's choices that we have to make in that. We have to get to the place that even through the hardships that we have to see that a light. I didn't say you have to be huge, but a light at the end of that tunnel.
Just look for the little. Just look for the light.
Just look for the light.
It doesn't have to be a bright, shining light. It does not have to be, you know, the spotlight that you're like, oh, it's on me. Just find the light in it, because there's light in every dark situation. There is a light.
Yeah.
Just sometimes we don't look at it in the perspective as we should. You know,
Right.
we want it to be a certain way. We want it to have it feel a certain way, and that may not be the way that we should perceive some things. You know,
Right.
we got to think differently. We have to do things a little differently.
So let's talk about
Okay.
what had Tokeitha in silence. What had Tokeitha suffering in silence?
So, for me, domestic violence is a really big issue that I deal with a lot in understanding who I am. But before domestic violence, I was abused. So I was molested by 2 girls as a young girl. When I would go outside to play, that's when the molestation would occur. So a lot of times people say, well, wow, 2 girls? Yeah. You know, that's something that is kind of a taboo in our community. And so we don't always hear people share their stories about molestation. So one of the effects that it had on me, even into my adulthood, is when people would play, like if someone would touch like that,
Yeah.
it's a trigger for me.
Right.
You know, so it would turn me, you know, and turn my mind into that place where that will remind me of what happened to me as a little girl.
Right.
You know, and I was always more of a serious person, so I would play, but I wouldn't always laugh and joke like, ha ha ha. No, I don't always think some things are funny because of that
Right.
being done to me at that time, because it revolved around my playtime, a place where you're supposed to be free, use your imagination, and that was, you know, that was tampered with at a very young age for me. So from that point on, it did change the way that I thought about a lot of things in my relationships with women. And when I say that is because I was not always friendly. I would often feel like I don't need to be friends with other women. You know, it's better just to have a guy friend because they won't hurt you. You know?
Right.
Because sometimes we hear women say, no, I don't do women. I don't have girlfriends.
Exactly.
Why?
Why?
What happened to you when you were younger, or what has happened to you that has made you feel like you don't need another woman as your friend? Because we all need each other. And I've heard so many women say that, even in their adulthood, I don't do women.
Exactly.
That's a scar. That's a hurtful place that they're in.
Exactly.
And they're still hoarding that hurt and that pain. And that needs to be released. And it needs to be worked on in a safe environment where you can be able to release that and say, I'm okay now. I'm better. I know that I was hurt as a young girl, or something happened to me as a young girl.
Right.
But now I'm better, you know? See, these are some of the things, again, silence. You don't want to talk about why you don't like women as your girlfriends, or, you know, to hang out with, and you don't have those relationships. Because what happened?
Right.
You were scarred. You're hurt.
Yeah.
So for me, molestation was one, you know, in silence. Again, abusers tell you, you know, don't say anything. If you do this, if you say something, you're going to cause this to happen. No one is going to be your friend and things like that. You know, as a young kid, you're like, oh, no, I want friends, you know.
Right.
So that's your innocence that's being played upon.
They're creating fear.
Exactly. So it's perpetuating fear.
Exactly.
Perpetuating fear. So very young, at a very young age, I was operating in a very fearful place.
Right.
You know? And so fast forward going into my teenage years, you know, dealing with weight as an issue. I ran track when I was in junior high and in high school, but I still was very chunky. You know, like I had a shape. But when I look at it now, it's like, oh my gosh, I had a body then. Like,
Exactly.
oh, what? I want that body back.
But you're speaking on something right now, because you can't see it, and because of things that happen to us, we don't embrace where we are. We don't live out our greatness.
Yeah. So think about that at that time. You know, being teased about the something that was given to me, you know, naturally. But also it was shaped and formed by me being athletic, you know, and being in sports. And so there I was, you know, running track, and I was always in a lot of different social clubs. I was the only child growing up, and me being the only child, I was often very sociable, and a lot of my friends were only children.
Yeah.
So we often did things together, you know, but during those teenage years, I became very promiscuous because of that molestation and just going to different levels of explore my sexuality. And so that caused me to, again, look at men differently. Like, okay, if I'm going to date this guy, I'm going to do this. I'm going to get what I want. If you don't give me what I want, then I don't need you, you know.
Right.
Just like a headhunter almost, you know.
Right.
You just...
As if that's your release.
Yeah.
You're looking for a place to
Yeah.
be free.
Yeah.
So you create something. You create your freedom.
Mm-hmm. If I want you, I'll have you.
Right.
You know, all of those different mindsets that, you know, women say, oh, girl, well, I can get any man. You really can if you wanted to. But there's also a motive behind that.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to think about that motive. Is it coming from a healthy place?
Right.
Why do you want him?
Because it's a consequence.
It's always consequences.
It's a consequence.
Behind everything.
Behind everything.
There's consequences
yes.
behind everything.
Yes.
So you got to be prepared for what you're opening up yourself to, you
Yes.
know. And sometimes you unconsciously you're unaware of what happens, you know. So you might not understand that the molestation plays a part of your sexuality, your choice in sexuality as you get older. You might not understand that the molestation gave you anxiety, you know.
Exactly.
It make you feel like you don't need to be in a room full of people. You want to be isolated by yourself, you know. So all these different things play a part in it. And so for me, I just had to understand, again, when I was in college, I went to an all-girls school, so it was very difficult for me. And, you know, I in the beginning, I was like, no, I can't stay here. Like, Mom and Dad, I need to get out of here.
Right. Yes.
You know? But again, I'm in that same space of being around a lot of women and understanding who and what to learn from this culture.
Yes.
And cultivating that. It was such a beautiful experience now when I look back over it. I really, really am grateful for been in college, you know, because that is where I began to understand who I am as a woman, you know,
yes.
and to fight for social issues concerning women, you know, not to be silent. I mean, it's not all about your beauty. It's about your brains as well, you know, and doing things strategically and implementing them as women, you know, because there are a lot of things that occur in this world that women have their hand in that we may not even get the acknowledgments that are needed or the accolades.
You know, what just came across me is that, like, what the enemy meant for evil, God
turned around for
good. Your good.
Mm-hmm. And nothing is wasted.
Nothing is wasted.
Nothing is wasted. So God be before you, who's against you. God is always with you. You know, even during those hard times when it looks bad, you know, you might not have food on the table, you're fighting for your life. All of these things I had to do. You know, I had to fight for my life. The first time I was abused, the first time I was hit, I peed on myself, okay? I was never, ever in an abusive relationship. I did not see abuse. So my body reacted before my mind actually reacted. And I was still in shock, actually, because I felt my face. Like, did I just get hit? Yeah. You know, my earring wasn't in my ear. So that was the evidence that I did just get hit. And I looked and I was trying to understand what just happened to me, you know? And so it was just really, really hard. But life after domestic violence is still a work in progress for me. My son is getting ready to be 10 years old. Yeah. Okay, and my abuser at the time was my son's father. So a lot of times people say, well, Tokeitha, you know, how is it with you now? You know, how is it in your relationship with his father? His father's still in his life. And it's something that we constantly have to work towards, being the best parents that we can be, because he's not incarcerated. I did not press charges against him. I did fight, you know, in court back and forth a lot. Yeah. And so here's some of the things that have affected us throughout the years. And sometimes people may look at it in a lot of different ways. We really don't have family pictures, family portraits of myself, my son, and his father. We have like 1 or 2 pictures that we have taken over the years, because a lot of times the restraining orders were in place because of court. So we could not be in the same space together. You know, we would have drop-off points. But we also had a time where we fought a lot. You know, my son was witnessing a lot of arguing, a lot of verbal abuse. And so my son is in therapy, and my son is still in therapy, and we all had to, you know, do something. We had to go to therapy. We had to do this. We had to do all these different things. My son is still in therapy because my son is now at that stage where, again, in school, he's now interacting with young ladies. So that is something that is still in place because we have to work and watch his anger, and because of the things that he's witnessed when he was a child when it happened, and he was 3 years old at the time that it happened.
Mm-hmm.
So when we look at the length of time and the effects that it has had on my family alone, not just what you see me and my son, you know, my relatives, from my church family, there's so many different people who were instrumental in helping me through this process. And it's still an ongoing process because we still have to work through, you know, the trauma, the after effects of the trauma, you know.
First of all, I want to say, just even commend you, because it really takes a strong woman, a confident woman, a woman who knows herself, like, or who's willing to know herself, who's willing to, you know, say, I'm going to make this thing work, because many women wouldn't do that.
Yes.
You know, some women, let's talk tonight, because this might, you know, open up some hearts for some women to say, this is still his father. I want him to know his father. I want him to know what that father love is, even though I was hurt, you know, because your son still wants to get to know his father.
Yeah, my son loves his father.
He loves his father. So his father
father
is not the same as he was as her husband. Yeah. You know, he wasn't the same as her lover to his father. It's a totally different relationship. And some women would have pulled back. You're not going to see him. You're not going to do this out of her own anger and frustration. And what you have done is just split the two. You're saying, hey, this is still your son. I still want you to raise him. This is still, it might not have worked out between the two of us. It's not going to work out between the two of us. Yeah. But I know that this still has to happen. And how did you get there, though? Because some women are probably trying to figure out, they're so angry. You know, it had to be in some sort. And I want you to tell me, have you totally forgiven him, or you're trying to?
Oh, that's a good question.
You know?
Yeah. So thank you, Sha'Meca, for, you know, acknowledging that and complimenting me.
You're welcome.
It's not an easy path. I'm telling you all, it's not easy at all. I often get questioned a lot from my parents and other older women, you know, why do you keep doing this? Why is this, he doesn't need his father, you know? And so I do with my heart and my relationship with God. I believe God that much that I know that he's not going to harm our son, because he's never harmed him, you know? And I'm not sending a mixed message here. I want to make this clear. If you ever feel that you are in jeopardy, if you're in harm's way, that's totally different. You know, I suggest you dial 911 and get help in those very violent situations. The violence occurred during a small amount of time, and since that time, we've never had any violence since then. Right. That was the first thing that helped to understand the relationship. The other part was to my relationship with his father is because he was still wanting to do better. Help me. How can I help myself? I don't know what I did. I made a mistake. Can you forgive me? But even with the forgiveness part, it is a process. Right. It's not overnight. Do I still have times where I'm upset? I do get upset sometimes. Right. But I have to let him know, hey, that right there was a trigger for me. Right. And he will do the same thing. Hey, what you said is a trigger for me, because it's vice versa here, you know? Right. But we're both raising a child who, if we would allow our selfishness and our thoughts to get in this and say, hey, you know, he doesn't need this parent, he doesn't need that parent, what could happen to this child? He will be another fatherless child. You know, we came from fatherless households, both myself and his father, and that was the one thing that we said. We would not do that. We would not do that to our child. Right. And so that's a commitment that we made prior to the abuse and all of that, you know. Mm-hmm. Forgiveness. That's the second part that you said. Right. It hurts. Yeah. It hurts. I think I really got to a place of forgiveness maybe about 2.5 years ago, maybe. Mm-hmm. And even now, there are still times where I'm saying, wow, I mean, really. I'm saying wow because I know it was God's grace to even be able to say, I forgive you. There were times where I couldn't utter that.
Yeah.
Because there were other words in place of that. Like, I'm going to harm you.
Exactly.
The things that I was thinking about. The things that I really were contemplating doing. And the people that were in my life at the time who kept me from actually doing those things.
So how long was it though? Like the abuse went on. Did you, in the beginning, did you tell anyone that it was going on?
Okay. So in the beginning, my domestic violence started when my son was 3 years old. His father was taken away. He was in jail for a period of time. And so coming off of that jail sentence is when the domestic violence happened.
Right.
Okay. It was a very short time. It really was. It was probably like over a 6-month period.
That's still long when you
and
have
that
to be
6 months,
there.
right? But that 6 months changed my entire life,
okay.
right?
Yeah.
So that 6-month period at 3 years old, and my son remembering, and that was another thing because he would remember what was happening. You know, Mommy, do you remember when Daddy hit you?
Right.
I wasn't prepared to answer that question today. You know.
Yeah.
But okay. You know, what do I do? So moments like that, hurtful, really hurtful. And just thinking that we were engaged, we were, due to live out our dreams as a family. And here it is, we have this nail now in our side that we have to deal with.
Right.
And it hurt. It hurt because I would often say, I love my family, and I just believe that I had to do it in a safe way, in a very guarded way, with the law in place.
Right.
Because there was a lot of law enforcement in place there. But I had people who helped me. Did I talk about it? Yes. But I talked about it to my best friend. When I talked about it to my best friend, she was really furious. She would say to me, I'm here for you. I support you. She never condemned me. She never said, you better not do this. You better not. She not once said that. She would always say to me, what do you want to do? I got your back.
Yes.
And that's all I needed to hear at times, because there were times where I was really going to the left with this thing.
Yes.
The person who was shocked the most, was hurt the most. I believe my father was mad, but I believe my mother. I remember going to my mom's house with one incident, and I had on a shirt, and when I asked her to come into the back room, and I removed my shirt, and from the neck down, this was the worst fight that we had ever had. From the neck down, I was bruised. From the neck up, he was bruised. And I went to the back room, and my mom says,
so you fought back?
Yeah, I had to fight back. Oh, I fought him like my life depended on me. My body, the 4-carat ring that I had on my finger, everything. I fought him with everything that I had in me. And so I'll tell you another part to that after I finish this, because he said something to me that was really, really instrumental in the turning point. But my mother said, I didn't raise you like this. And my mom almost felt like it was her fault, like, that I was experiencing, this abusive relationship. And she thought that maybe she did something wrong, or, and she would just say, I don't know what to do. I didn't raise you like this. It was like she was taking on my burden. And I was like, Mommy, you did right. Like, as a mom, you did all that you can do. And it's not your fault. It's not my fault. It's just the way that things are happening right now. But we're going to be okay. And my mom she just freaked out. And that was the first time I saw my mother defenseless. I mean, my mom is really a strong woman, and so for me to see her in that space, she was just like, oh my gosh, my baby,
Because you want to protect your kids.
You do.
You raise them to protect them. You raise them to be scholars, to be better than you.
Yeah. And I wanted to say to that, so fast forward after life after domestic violence, he said to me one day, he said, you know what? I might have hurt you physically. He said, but mentally you won the war. That's what he said to me. He said, mentally you won the war. Mm-hmm. And so when he said that, I said, thank you. And I didn't say anything behind that. Mentally, his mind could never let go of what happened, you know. And I say that was because his family was right here, just how we are. Right. But he could not reach out and touch his family, meaning the complete product of his family, not just his son, me included. And because he could no longer have me, it hurt him. It hurt him really bad. And so again, that's where parameters are in place. And you know, you're in a relationship, I'm in a relationship, you have your things that you do, and I have the things that I do. So, you know, those are things that are instrumental, and we have to make sure we respect the boundaries in this. And so
I want to talk about that just for a second, when you said that he couldn't touch his family, because I just can hear that woman, you know, feeling like, I can just give him another chance. You know, I know that he would, because I believe that the woman begins to look at what she first fell in love with. Yeah. And it's really unbelievable that she has to go through this, because she looks at him, the attraction doesn't necessarily mean that it leaves. It doesn't go. You can still be attracted physically. Yeah. You can still know the things about him, because sometimes it's the things about him that helps you build him up. That there's some things you invested in him, that the reason why he is successful, maybe financially, successful in his career, successful in his life. You were there when grandmama died. You were there when auntie passed away. You were there
when he was in jail.
When he was in jail, you did that. You were his ride or die. So it's like, I don't think that we as women ever want to just let go of our investment. And we want to believe that this investment will work. But sometimes when you see the stock market dropping, and you losing a lot of your money, you got to get out and invest in some type of other stock. You know, and just be willing to say, you know what, I'm going to let somebody else pick that up and let them go ahead and invest in that thing, because it's not working for me. Yeah. You know.
So, that was a really good point. Sha'Meca said everything in the way that it should go, honestly. Really. A lot of times we often look at the past and holding on to the past. And this is something that I've learned. The person has to want to change. If they do not want to change, you're not going to get change. That person has to change. No matter how much money you have, no matter how good you look, no matter what you have, you cannot change that person. You can only change yourself. Yes. And that is the part that I really, really had to wrap my mind around and say, okay, Tokeitha, you might think you're a superwoman, you're a supermom, and you're all these things, but you cannot change this man. This man has to want to change himself. And so because of that, just allow God to be God and pray. That's the only thing that I can do, because I couldn't stop praying for him. Because it was still in me. There were times where I had to pray myself out of that pain. God, I wanted to hurt him today. God, you know, I cannot go to jail today. I have to take care of this child. I have to do, and you know, so I would pray to God about, and my prayers would be different prayers sometimes. They would come from a lot of different emotions. But again, I had to really give it to God and allow God to work in that space and work on him. And at 10 years later, we're now seeing manifestations of those prayers. 10 years later. Well, 7 years later, because it happened when my son was 3. 7 years later.
Let me ask you this too. Okay, so we as women, we can be out, we see some guys pass us by, and we're like, he's the one. We marry him in the first 30 seconds. We have his kids. We have his last name. And we have the white picket fence and everything. And then when you get to know him, if you get him, a lot of times, sometimes you do, and it's just like, you know he's not the one. Mm-hmm. But then you just like, I can change him. I can do it. Did you have that moment where it was just like, you knew it was something that was just like, no, but I'll just try it and see if it works?
So I went back more than one time.
Right.
Yes, I did. I went back more than one time. And that's how this book came out.
Right.
So in this book, I talk about that same scenario. And in this scenario, I say that, again, the deception.
Yeah.
Because we often think, oh, no, it's going to be all right. It'll work itself out. That's years on your life. That's months on your life.
Come on.
And so when you think you're going to keep working it out, you keep thinking that it's going to, come together. It's going to come together when you get it together. When you realize, again, this book is really helpful in that. Because, again, that same scenario, I can look at some of the women he dates and I'm just like, oh, child, you don't know what you got yourself into.
Ooh.
But just wait, girl. Just wait and see. And I'm not being a hater. I'm just looking at it like I got to pray for her too. Because, again, you never know. But, again, people begin to see the deception. You know. Why you really here? You know. Who sent you here?
You know what? Okay, that's the other thing. So, okay, let's do this for for our ladies out there and our audience out there. Come on, we gotta do a quiz. We have to ask the questions.
Yeah.
One of the things that I did, and even with my husband, when he came to the door, I'm like, this is me. What's going on? Let me know everything. Put it down. I need to know what I'm dealing with.
Right.
You're going to know everything you're dealing. Like, you have to be at a place where you're not afraid.
Yes.
You're not living in fear. You don't even care about having the man.
Yeah.
He doesn't make you or break you. You can do good and bad all by yourself.
And
that's the truth.
About that.
But the real thing is that, like, you have to be true with that. Like, we said to our girl, I can do good and I can do bad all by myself. I don't need him. That's a joke when women be saying that, because they be right up in his face.
In the DM.
In the DM.
Texting, calling, hey,
exactly.
babe, I'm thinking about you. I like you. Are you looking handsome today? Or, oh, I see you hanging out with so-and-so. And don't get it twisted. There are a lot of women now. And you see these men in relationships. And you're still chasing after this dream that you have in your mind. Yes. And so when you say, like you said, put it all on the table. Right. Put it out there. Right. A lot of times, and that's what I asked him. Right. So for me, in the beginning, I asked certain things. Right. Have you ever done this? Did you do this? Did you do that? So I did that. Have you ever hit a woman before? I asked that. Right. So when he said no, of course, I came back to that. Well, no, I asked you. Mm-hmm. Have you ever put your hands on the one? I don't know why that came to me, but it
you
did.
know what? You know what I find to be what I find to be true. And what I find to be true is that when we begin to ask those questions, it's a clue that the Holy Spirit will give you. Yes. Come on, wait a minute. Let me walk off for a minute. Let me walk off. Yeah. Okay, let me walk back on. You get what I'm saying? And that's
indicators. Because the Holy Spirit is your guide. But even that was way before. That goes to show you that God is always with you. Because even before I became or understood God in the space that I know Him now, He was still with me in that. And He still protected me. Even when I sit here and think about it. As I sit here and tell this story, I have chills right now just knowing that He was still with me. There was a time where I remember calling my best friend and I said, today is the day. I'm going to kill him. He going to die today. Mm-hmm. And my best friend said, oh no, okay. She immediately stopped what she was doing. And she got to me in 10 minutes. Mm-hmm. And she said, I'll never ever forget that day. I saw that look on your face and I just could not believe it. I could not believe it. And so I think about those moments where God was still with me.
Still with you.
Because trust and believe, the enemy he still wants you. But he wanted me in that space where I was at, that I was on the verge of I could have made one wrong mistake and it could have changed everything in my life. And so that same scenario of what's going on, when we think about who you are. Right. How did you get in that relationship and then you were at this level, but now the man has dropped you down to this level? Right. What have you lost and giving up so much of yourself in this time, and you're just like, you can't see it. Mm-hmm. And your people, your friends, they remind you. They'll say, oh, you let yourself go, or you did this and you did that. you really, really need good people around you to remind you of that.
Right.
And so, and that was one thing that I had. I had friends who would know, they would intervene.
Exactly.
I mean, they would intervene in a mighty way.
You need real friends.
Real friends.
You need real friends.
People who will save your life if your life depended on it. And that's what I had. I had in my corner women who would fight for me when I could not fight for myself.
Yes.
And there were times in my life where I was very suicidal at a point. Where I said, no, I'm not just going to kill him. I'm going to kill, everybody got to go.
Okay.
I had wrote my will out.
Mm-hmm.
That's how low I was. I wrote my will out and I told my brother and I told my best friend, and my brother still talks about this. He says, I remember when you told me these are the passwords to all of my accounts, and this is, where the insurance policies are. And my brother, and I told my brother, whatever happens to me, I need you to take care of my son. And he said that was a very chilling moment for him. Mm. He said because at that point he understood that I was ready to die. And I was. I can go back to that place, that moment in time, and remember that I really was ready to die.
So what made you ready to live?
My son.
Mm-hmm.
My son. It's something, it's so amazing how there are people who are in your midst, and when you have quiet moments and still moments where you can sit and listen to them. So there would be times where, we could be in the house playing, my son would say things like, Mommy, I'm praying for you. And I'll turn around and look. Okay. Because I need all the prayer I can get right now. Because I'm sad. Even going to therapy, being on my job.
Yes.
My supervisor, they were aware of what was going on. They even protected me in their own space,
Right.
I told my supervisor one day, I said, I need to go sit on someone's couch before I, tap out on life. And so all these people were in place. But my son was really instrumental. My son is my legacy, My son is very instrumental to me because, again, we would change the trajectory of our family. It is what I put in my child that he will change it. And for me, it meant that much to me that he would not be a fatherless African-American male in the United States of America, but that he can change the trajectory of his father's life in his perspective and get him to look at how important it is for men to be men and to step up even when they make a mistake. Because as parents, we're not given a handbook. It's not a to-do list and a book you read and you get it right.
No.
It's all about trial and error, and many of us have made mistakes. But it is when you learn reconciliation and forgiveness and resolutions that you really work towards it.
Yes.
And do it in a safe and loving space. And be okay with your decisions. But just know that you don't have to stay in abuse. You do not have to stay in a place of someone verbally abusing you and putting you down and things like that. So for me, those are the things that I had to really, and I had to rebuild myself. Oh my gosh. It's like I had to talk to myself and love myself all over again. Mm-hmm. Tokeitha, you're beautiful. Everybody, oh, you're so beautiful. Mm-hmm. Thank you. But deep down inside, I was like,
you have to do that yourself. You have to love yourself. You have
and I still have to remind, I still have to say thank you. Okay?
Right.
I have to say thank you. Because when someone gives me a compliment, again, that's a part of that healing process. So when someone says, hey, Tokeitha, you're so beautiful, I have to remember to stop and say thank you and then proceed. Because for so long, again, I was in a different state of mind. Where although I felt beautiful in some spaces, like I felt beautiful, but then I did not, because I still felt like I was in a broken place, in a battered place, but because of healing, through talking, through therapy, through writing, there were multiple ways to get to this place.
And
where
that's something that we talked about even before the interview, is that we talked about those resources. And some of the things that you are mentioning are the resources. Mm-hmm. Writing can be an outlet.
Yes.
That was, for me, when I was younger, I went through a lot of things, trying to take on the world and thinking, my family and everybody problems, and it was starting to affect me, but writing was a release for me. One of the things Tokeitha said was like having a friend or speaking to someone who could bring her to that safe space you know, and I'm glad that you opened up.
Yes.
Because a lot of people are suffering in silence
Yes.
because they're ashamed and they don't want people to know that
Yes.
I'm going through this.
So and it's everyone. It's not a woman in a low income family that's only, you know, susceptible to suffering in silence. It's that woman who makes 6 figures or 7 figures, who lives in a big mansion, who has a, you know, on paper and the image to the world is that they have it all together.
Yes.
They're suffering in silence too. No one is exempt from suffering. But you break that silence when you work through it. Working through it.
Yes.
That means writing, that means talking, that means therapy, that means through your faith, you know. And just don't be afraid to admit. That is the first step. You have to admit. My parents, when I grew up, my parents were in Narcotics Anonymous and Alcoholic Anonymous. So I'm an NA and an AA baby. And so I know all about sobriety and the 12 steps. It works if you work it, right?
Right.
But the first thing they talk about in those rooms is like you have to admit that you have a problem. You have to admit. You have to accept the fact that, hey, you know what? I am in this abusive relationship. Hey, I was molested. Hey, I was bullied. Hey, you know, I have low self-esteem. Hey, I do not love myself. Hey, I'm a cutter. Or, hey, I'm suffering from depression. I feel depressed. You know, these are all things that we have to admit. Yeah. Society can sell us a dream every day.
Because I know we do want to, we want to look, I speak to a lot of women, you know, and I know, and being a woman, we want to be at certain places in our lives.
Yeah, right.
We talk about that, you know, that clock that's ticking. You know, I should be here, or we're trying to live up to, you know, who mama wants us to be, who daddy wants us to be, and you really just want to be yourself.
Yeah.
Nobody teach you just be yourself, just love yourself. You grow up in grammar school. Are you gonna graduate? What's your goals? You get into high school. What's your 5-year plan? What's this and what's that? And people always have these things that they put on you. But on today, it's like, how are you going to build the best you? Hashtag building the best you. How are you going to build you, the you want to be, not the you your mama wants you to be, your daddy wants you to be, Tokeitha or Sha'Meca wants you to be. We're giving you the tips and the tools that you need today to say like, hey, the first step, just opening up. You know, on my prayer line this morning, I was just telling, you know, everyone to like, just open up, just tell God.
Yeah, I talk to God just like how I'm talking to you.
Just tell God. Sometimes you just got to go and be like, okay, Lord, today is a hot mess. You know?
And that's how I talk to God. Boo, babe, God, whatever's going on at the moment, however I say it.
You have to have a release in order to not suffer.
Yes.
And to not be in silence. And I believe God gave us that. He gave us
all the voice.
When God first made man, when he made Adam, what did he do with him first? I believe the first thing that he did with him after he communicated with him.
Yes, he did.
God wants us to have a voice. He told Adam, you're in charge of this, and that. This what you do. And I'm going to take something from your rib and I'm going to give you somebody else. He didn't even have him to be alone in the beginning because it was straight with God. And then he gave him someone else. Yeah. And I believe that's what we need. To admit it, to open up, to communicate, to keep communicating. And that's what prayer is there for too at the same time.
Yes, I do believe in the power of prayer. For me, I am a third generation prayer warrior.
Amen.
My grandmother, my mother, and myself, all praying women. And I know their prayers are being answered on my behalf. But I say that to say the silence is what keeps you in neutral. Remember, when you drive a car in neutral, you can't go forward, you can't go back. So the silence is like that neutral place. And you can't go anywhere. You're just sitting there. You're looking at everything going by. You know, you want to go forward. You might want to go back, but you can't even move because that silence is keeping you stuck. And it's like it will suffocate you.
Yeah.
That silence will do so much to you in that time that your health can deteriorate just because of the silence. It can turn into other things. And so that's the part of breaking that silence that needs to happen. Because when you break that, you break down barriers, you break down hindrances, you break down obstacles, you break down those trials through that breaking of the silence. And so that's something that's really instrumental in all of those things. And so I'm saying that because when I understood my space of what I wanted to do, I began to write, but then it began to develop into other things. People began to ask, hey, would you share your story? I began to advocate for others and help others through that. And so it's my form of giving back. I know that there was a young woman in the same space that I could have been in, right now.
Yes.
They may think that it's okay. I'm not perfect. I didn't get out on the first time. I didn't get out on the second time. I didn't get out on the fourth or the fifth. I got out on the fourth, then I think I went back for the fifth time. But it was in that last time that God showed me, okay, if you don't get it, I'm going to show you what happens. So God showed me a vision and just told me that I will die if I don't let go of this. I will die. And I had to come to grips with what God had showed me. And that was really chilling for me. Even now, it still hurts to say, like, okay, well, God, what if I wanted to do it my way? That's when the prayer comes in, because I need you to, whatever this is happening, I need you to work on that space. Again, God. So that's a part of the parameters that I had to really, look at. But resources, let's talk about that, because a lot of times people say, what if you have that friend in abusive relationship, or if you have a friend that's depressed, if you have a friend that's in just suffering in silence. Right. Check on your friend first of all. You're a real friend when you check on them. Right. Hey girl, I haven't heard from you in 3 days. How you doing? Right. Go knock on their door. My entire church came after me when I was quiet at one point in time. They knocked on the door. They sent messages. They found me. Okay. They contacted all relatives because they wanted to know, hey, what's going on?
She alive?
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
So think about that. People are you never know who you are impacting and who may cross your mind, and just the level of influence you may have, not even knowing that someone's seeing your face every day. That matters to them. Yes. Saying hello or just being in their presence. So, check on your friends. Check on that person. If that thought coming into your mind, that name, call. That might be your last time. You never know. And one of the things that one of my friends did not do, she never condemned me. She never said, girl, you better get out. You better do this. She didn't do that. She listened to me. And even after the fact, when I did get out, for 3 years, and this is the part of the story, people are like, what? For 3 years, I talked about him. Girl, I can't stand him. How can he do this to me? For 3 years, every day, she listened to the same story for 3 years. That's a part of the after effect. Right. So when people say, oh, how did you work? That was a part of the forgiveness too. Yeah, so for 3 years, healing. But for 3, so imagine for 3 years, you hear the same thing. So one day, she says to me, I know you're getting better. Because you didn't bring it up. There's the National Domestic Violence Hotline, 24/7, always available. 1-800-799-SAFE.
And
a safety plan. A safety plan. Think about how your way of escape. If you that friend that you trust, you might want to make a photocopy of your ID and send it to that friend and just say, can you please keep this? Whenever you get a little money, if your friend is that person that can save for you, or maybe they want to save for you and keep it for you. These are different. Everybody's way of escape is totally different. Right. You have people who may save in their own home and no one ever knows. But when they escape, they're escaping with what they have. You might not even have time to pack a bag. You may not have time, because with me, when I was going through my situation, I went out with what I had on, which was a white t-shirt and a pair of sweatpants. Right. That's what I had on, and I grabbed my child. My child was wrapped in a blanket. That's what I had on at the time. I didn't go back to my house and pack a bag and say I'm leaving and make a grand announcement. Right. I went out with what I had on. My hair was a hot mess, all that. I didn't have time to put my makeup on and, think I'm going to do this.
And for that woman or that guy, because I'm not even going to limit this,
men
men
are abused.
Men are abused.
Men suffer in silence too. And I'm so glad we brought this up, because for me, that is the one area that I am really passionate about, because I am a mother of a son. And that means that my son has a voice too in this world. And we're not going to silence men and say, oh no, a man needs to do this. He cannot talk. He's not a victim of domestic violence or anxiety or depression. Yes, men are. Mm-hmm. Men are victims too. And men have a voice too. And so there are so many different parts into healing and understanding who you are. Because oftentimes as women, we are always, oh girl, no, I don't need the man. I don't need the man. That man is needing. He's in need. Yeah. He needs that strength. He needs that outlet too. Just as women, we can talk amongst each other. Exactly. Men may not have that same space. And a lot of times men are not even willing to open up.
Right.
If you can sit down and listen to some of the things that these men have to talk about,
yes,
we would shut up really quick.
And don't judge.
We would really be quiet and say,
and we need definitely like a no judgment zone.
Yeah, no judgment zone.
No judgment zone, right?
Yeah. You're free to speak and be who you are, But yes, a lot of the domestic violence statistics are often skewed because they can't get accurate numbers for the real number of cases with men, because there are not a lot of men that come forward.
Right.
And even when you have same-sex relationships, there's so many different angles to suffering in silence. It's not just domestic violence. But again, domestic violence plays a big part in it, because abuse is abuse. Verbal abuse. Okay?
And it can come from anyone.
Financial abuse.
Come from your mom, from your dad, or from anybody.
Yes.
My sister... And I love my sister, but we fought a lot when we were younger. We were like 6 years, apart. And then just one day she saw a post, I think it was on Facebook, it said, sometimes the first person you get bullied by is someone in your family.
Yeah.
So she sent me a text and she sent me a picture. She was like, I'm so sorry. Because you really...
I had to apologize to my sister. Yes. Because I was that sister.
Yeah.
I bullied my sister. Because we have a 16-year difference. So she was that little girl that was always in my stuff. And I used to be like, get off of my stuff. Yeah. Like, why do you have to touch my stuff? Long story short, I was not aware the magnitude of what I did when I was younger. Right? And so we had a family meeting. We sat down and we talked about it at the table. And to this day, this is the tattoo that I have. And my sister has the same tattoo, and it represents a pledge that we made to each other. I promised not to hurt her, and she promised not to cut herself. Because behind the scenes, my sister was a cutter, and I was the person who inflicted that. Unconsciously, not even knowing, But again, I was bullied by my older cousin. And look at that cycle. It perpetuated into another generation, into our family.
That's what
But we broke it.
Yeah.
We broke it. Okay? My cousin and I are really, really close. My sister and I are really, really close. We all come together. We sit and talk. We chat. We let it out, I ask my sister all the time, how do you feel? Okay? Is there anything that you want to talk about?
Exactly.
And she's open now. But it took all of those years
of
releasing that pain. We cried. We all cried.
Yes.
We all felt like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry I did this to you. We all felt so many different emotions. But again, these suffering in silence. I didn't know my little sister was suffering.
Right.
And I love my sister to death. Honestly, I do. And it hurt me to know that I was the person, again, when you think about it, not me unconsciously not knowing, all of that pain that I was enduring was pushed off into her.
My prayer is that whoever's listening, and if it touched your heart and it touched your situation, that I want you to not suffer in silence anymore. My prayer is that you begin to speak. You begin to speak. You begin to release. You begin to affirm some things in your life. I believe affirmation is so important. That even if you don't feel it, you just say it. And you allow your heart to match up with your words. You know, I am beautiful.
You're too precious to be abused.
I'm too precious to be abused.
Too precious to be molested.
Loved.
Yes.
It's not my fault.
Yes.
I've made some mistakes, but it's not my fault. You know, better is coming. Better is now.
Yeah.
Greater is here. Greater is happening now. Because that's one of the things that I talked to Tokeitha. I said, what about that person?
I love myself.
I love myself.
I forgive myself. That is one of the biggest affirmations ever. I forgive myself.
And stop saying you don't get along with women.
I don't do women. I don't do women.
If you don't do women, you don't do yourself.
Amen. Because you're a woman.
Because you are a woman. So do yourself to help build her. And if someone has hurt you or made you feel like I don't trust women, one woman does not set the stage for all women. There are good women out there. I'm surrounded by some amazing sisters. They need to hear. Well, I love you guys. I really love you guys with the love of the Lord. I thank you for tuning in to the Building the Best You show.